The most important person in the whole wide world is you, and you hardly even know you. The most important person in the whole wide world is you. Come on, we'll show you. Let's find out more about the things you feel and do, 'cause you're the most important person in the world to you.
Hello, 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 and happy Earth Day 2020. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd, 2020. Welcome to One4ALLisLove with Sonya Spirit, and I am Sonya Spirit. And today's episode is titled Let's Chat, and that's because yesterday when I made this, I had forgotten that today is Earth Day. Otherwise, that would have certainly been the focus of the episode. But it doesn't matter. Let's Chat is generic enough that we will be talking about Earth Day, and why I believe it's relevant this year more so than any other year. Just doing a little bit of research. So today is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. The first Earth Day was April 22nd, 1970. So first of all, it's Earth Day. Okay, I got that. And then when I thought about the date. When I thought about the date, April 22nd, 2020, because Earth Day is always April 22nd, so. But the year is 2020, so we have a series of fours. April is the fourth month. 22, 2 plus 2 is 4. 2020 is reduced down to 4. So we have three fours for Earth Day. And I thought that was incredible. So I'm like, okay, this is how, messaging work. I was like, okay, so it's Earth Day. We got 3 4s. It's the 50th anniversary. What do these numbers mean? What does this represent? What is this saying to me in general? And now with the 4, so it's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And so Earth Day, of course, it marks the birth of the modern environmental movement, which began in 1970. And, of course, environmental, ecological, all of it falls within the same biosphere. It all falls within the same realm. I remember last week we were talking about it's the ecology, stupid. That was the name of the show based off of a comment made by James Carville in 1992. However, we were talking about the ecology. And now, and mind you, these things just come to me. These are not planned, which you could probably gather by now, because I probably could be a little bit more organized. But the thing is, I want the spirit to move me. I'm not driving this. I want to do this, but I'm not driving it. I'm an instrument. Okay, so today marks the 50th anniversary. And so I started digging into the number 50, which, of course, reduced is 5 and 0. And the number 50 esoterically means positive changes will be coming your way in the near future. That changes forthcoming will improve life in a variety of ways. So the number 5 is a sign that divine source has a pleasant change on the horizon. So basically, if there's validity to this, what we're seeing now is out with the old and in with the new. The number 13, which of course when you add it up equals 4, but the number 13, most people consider it unlucky, and it's not that it's unlucky or unpleasant. It's just it is regeneration. And with regeneration, there is a death. We talked about this a few episodes ago when we talked about death, how death is just the end of a life cycle or the end of a cycle. And then whatever is not necessary is flushed away or washed away or is eradicated, and what is needed for the new is attracted or brought in, okay? And its energy then manifests the direction that we're going in, so to speak. Okay, so that's what somehow I got on the number 4 and 13. But anyway, so but that 4 is also a part of change, but in a different way. But the number 5, has positive changes associated with the number, and it's also associated with healing. So in the number 50, so you have the highly materialistic 5 energy, and it's balanced with the 0 energy. Okay, and 0, for the most part, 0 has its own duality. It either can indicate nothing or infinity. So it depends on the context. So with the number 5, it's a tenfold. Okay, it has a tenfold power. So 0 before the 5 gives 5 more value or gives it more power. It gives it's 50. 0 before 5, it has no value. It has no value. So that's the duality of 0. It can be it can have amplified power, or it can be no power at all. And then biblically, 50 represents fullness or satisfaction, and there are a few scriptures to support that. But it also symbolizes deliverance or freedom from a burden. God commanded ancient Israel that every 50th year on the Day of Atonement that a jubilee was to be declared with the sound of a trumpet in Leviticus. During the jubilee year, all debts were settled in favor of the debtor, and inheritances were returned to their rightful owners. Also, interesting, inheritances were returned to their rightful owners. Now, that's another story. We won't go there. Also, those who worked as slave laborers in order to repay a debt were granted their freedom to return home to their families and land. Now, I did post something on Facebook about today being the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and how 50, represents the Jubilee year of rest and forgiveness of all debts and the liberation of slaves and servants, and how 5 is change and healing amplified tenfold by the presence or power of 0. So maybe God is trying to tell us something. So all of this is interesting because I'm not a fan. I've said it many times before. I don't believe in coincidences, happenstances, unfortunate events. There's only what we create and karma. So that's my take on that. However, so let's dig a little deep into this. To Earth Day. So I'm thinking, okay, today is Earth Day, and then just sit and ruminate on what's actually happening. So what's actually happening with Earth Day? We're in the middle of a pandemic, okay, a global pandemic. And I suspect in the rest of the parts of the world as well, they're going through some sort of capitalistic or economic crunch of some sort. So we have those two things going. Change, big change. 5 is about change. So there's a lot of change. But what caught my attention the most was the change and the healing of 5. So 5 can represent change. It can represent healing. And that's not a coincidence that this is the 50th anniversary, particularly since we are going through a great deal of change in terms of our health and economy. And biblically, 5 also symbolizes God's grace, goodness, and favor towards humans. And isn't that, now that, to be quite honest, that should be enough to just make you feel good, or at least secure. However, that's not the case for most people. So we have all this, 50 energy surrounding Earth Day. And then, of course, we have 4 energy because we have the repetition of 4, and, April 22nd, 2020. 4 represents order, organization, details, grounded, being grounded or centered. stability, house, material manifestation. It expresses that the universe is working on our behalf. 4 is a wake-up call to realize our true potential and unique, our unique potential. So, each of us is unique in our own little way, and every human being has a gift with unique talents and skills. We all came to this earth to fulfill our own unique path and unleash, our own potential that lies within us. Now, during our shelter-in-place orders, this is the perfect time for each one of us to discover talents that we didn't know we had. And how do you do that? Well, you might discover it by sitting in front of the TV. You could, to be quite honest. I'm not being facetious. Because if you ask the question about, wanting to know what your gifts, wanting to know what your talents are, it doesn't mean it's going to be rapidly disclosed. But if you put the question out there, you will get an answer because you are emitting the energy, so you will receive a response from the universe. Okay, so so you could very well, because I receive plenty of messages based on some of the material that I view on television, but I'm also looking for messages. So, how does something speak to me? What is it that, what am I supposed to get out of this piece? So I ask those questions because that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to know. This, whatever I'm viewing or listening to, it serves a purpose. It's speaking to my soul is basically what I'm saying. So, but now is the best time to do more reading, listen to music, write some music. Don't be afraid to create. Paint if you've never painted before, or if you paint all the time and you just didn't have the time. Find your passion. What is your passion? My passion is seeking the truth. Knowing the truth, not just seeking, because I don't want to be on an endless journey of looking. I want to actually receive, and receiving is very important. But now is the time that we should take to observe what activities and things that interest us, okay? And see, meditation comes in handy because you open your heart and mind up to receive energy from the universe, from up high, whether that's messaging or feelings or, information, or you're supposed to do something, you act in a certain way, whatever it is, that's a dedicated time of communication. Is that the only way God communicates? Absolutely not. But it is one of the more successful ways. However, if that's not your thing, I'm not knocking it. You know what works best for you. And to learn more about the 50th anniversary of Earth Day and its activities, because I think it's a year-long process, but of its activities and things you can do to support Earth Day, how to get involved, or if you want to learn more about Earth Day or ecology, you can go to earthday.org /Earth-day-50th/anniversary / or just go to earthday.org and you'll find it, I'm sure. Okay. So, Earth Day. This is, if you're spiritually involved, then all of this is very fascinating to you. How everything is connected. And what kind of messages are you receiving is even a better question, because, I watch, as far as material, I view different types of material, documentaries, dramas, blah, blah, blah. But I also love nature channels. So Planet Earth, I don't know if they have a political agenda. I'm sure somebody will send me an email and tell me something about it later on. But it's interesting because it tells a story. Of course, we can only guess this is one perspective from the one perspective, one guess of the way animals think and feel or behave or what have you, by just studying their activity and behaviors in their natural habitat. And of course, so that's interesting because, a lot of species are just endangered. And a lot of it is because of man. Man has encroached in areas of land, and basically we make it difficult for certain species or certain animals or whoever this was before. It's imperialism on a spiritual level. That's really what it is. Let's call it what it is. It's imperialism on a spiritual level. So, and the reason I say it's on a spiritual level is because, for the most part, we're conscious bullies. This earth was given to all life. Yes, man has dominion over all the life, but dominion does not mean abuse. It's more of a stewardship. Okay, it's a responsibility. It's an honor. It's a privilege. Hey, I'm putting you in charge of everything on the planet. And since you are God, you are me, I trust that you will take care of him, take care of it. And, of course, well, look at the planet. Look at our current situation. So, yes, and the planet is not it's not something else for us to abuse, for lack of a better word. The planet is alive. The planet is our home. And yes, the planet is alive. So that means, what does that mean? That means that the planet feeds off of our energy. The planet has its own energy. The planet has its own rhythm. There was a scientist, last name Schumann, only because he discovered, every time somebody discovers something, they want to throw their name on it. But anyway, I guess he discovered the Earth's resonance or vibration in terms of hertz, and I guess it's 7.83 or somewhere between, 5 and 8 or something like that. Anyway, so the Earth has its own hum, its own vibration, its own resonance. The Earth is alive. The Egyptians knew that. George Washington probably even knew that, considering how they built Washington, D.C. Look, the Washington Monument, these things point towards constellations in the sky. So architects, at least certainly ancient architects, were well aware that the planet was alive or is alive. The planet is alive. It's our ignorance is the one that's killing it. But anyway, so the planet is alive, and everything in it should be treated with respect, because everything on the planet, in the planet, whatever you, is a creation of God, okay? And God made us stewards over the planet. And let's just say, I'm sure we have been a disappointing lot. I think I've mentioned cruise ships and how that destroys the ecosystem, particularly in the waterways and with whales and being able to reproduce. And it's not just whales. It's also eating habits of certain species of underwater creatures, because I don't know if they're all fish, but it's okay. So today I was just watching earlier today, Planet Earth 2. And it was about cities. And it was interesting because it talks about, how basically animals have to either adjust, adapt, or move when man starts encroaching land and, basically transforms it into a concrete jungle. Okay. So he's showing his family of raccoons. That was cute, whatever. What got more interesting was in Africa, in a village in Africa, there are packs of hyenas running around. And in this one particular village, so these hyenas, it was 2 packs of hyenas that was trying to get into this village. Okay, so they had about 60 each on each team. And they were battling, fighting, holding their ground, trying to determine who was the stronger of the two packs and who was going to enter the city. So, of course, I'm thinking the worst. Oh, my God, these people don't know what's in store for them. And 60 hyenas about to attack the village. It was nighttime, so, for the most part, they didn't have, like, city lights. This is a village and stuff like that. So it's relatively dark except for the lights around the houses, not a lot of street lights and stuff like that. Anyway. So the one of the two hyenas, I guess, they won, whatever, and then they entered the village, which I guess they're calling the city, but maybe anyway. So they entered the village through this hole in the wall, and they make their way to, I guess they're sniffing out the butcher or a meat market. Well, come to find out, the butchers feed the hyenas. And the reason they were fighting is because they knew what they was getting on the other side. So the hyenas in groups are competing, okay? Competing. Outside of this village wall, they were competing. They were fighting. They were dominant. Okay? This was the dominant group that won the privilege to go into the wall of the village. And once inside the wall, it went to the meat market or the butcher, and they were, I guess they were practicing social distancing from the butcher. But anyway, and he came out, and so, there was this music. It's like dun dun dun. But this is, come on, planet Earth, so it's not really real horror, but you're still wondering what's going on. And he threw the bones that they don't use for the cows or whatever. And they give them they throw them down on the ground and give them to the hyenas. Okay, so none of the hyenas attacked the butcher or anyone else for that matter as they sauntered through the village to make their way to the butchers because they knew where they were going. And then there was another man, I believe it was in the same village, and he was not a butcher. He was hand feeding the hyenas. Now, and this is what I found interesting because it reminded me of a conversation that took place a couple of years ago, somewhere in between 2 to 5. Anyway, remember, the hyenas, there was 2 packs. They had to compete to get into the wall, and one was more dominant than the other. And, so, and anybody who knows anything about hyenas, they're like one of the most dangerous animals because they're strong. They have strong jaws, but they travel in packs. Okay, so that's what makes it. So they can attack almost anything. Okay, because they travel in packs. Anyway, so these hyenas were being hand fed by one of the African villagers. I mean, he literally had raw meat in his hand, and he was holding it up, and the hyena grabbed the meat without even thinking about approaching the villager and ate the meat, and he fed several different hyenas that way. And the reason why I found it fascinating is because, I was thinking, this was a long time ago when I first started thinking about consciousness, and I was like, okay, so, when we elevate our consciousness, this shows you how ignorant I was, but I said I was new to all of it, but anyway, I was like, so when we raise our consciousness, or when we get to the point where our consciousness raised, what's going to happen to animals? Will they still, still have that food cycle, that supply chain? Will they have to eat each other? And I received a couple of messages from different people, and they kind of said the same thing in terms of animals feed off of human consciousness. So what we see in animals is that whatever hostility or negative energy we have. Then that's what gets conveyed energetically to animals. My apologies. My granddaughter's trying to duo me. Anyway, So that's what happens with animals. So they feed off of our consciousness, so to speak, our energy, okay? Our energy influences their behavior, their consciousness. I mean, think about, like, dogs, for example. They can sense when we're afraid. And it's not just dogs, it's most animals, okay, unless they got a poor sense of smell. But I'm sure they have some other keen sense that nature has bestowed upon them to give them somewhat of an advantage in another area. So, but so the Planet Earth 2, forgive me, the Planet Earth 2 just reminded me how much we do influence animals, okay, by our energy, by our consciousness, and of course, because these are wild animals. These are not, tame tigers in a zoo. These are actually hyenas that roam in packs that live in the African grasslands. They just kind of stumbled upon a village that likes to feed them. So I'm sure that comes in handy when the pickings are slim. But the thing about it is, it's amazing. It's amazing the power of our minds, because I was speaking to one of my, a co-host for another show, and we were just kind of chopping it up, and how everything is related. Everything is related. So we touched on, talked about ecology, but also we spoke on how we need to move in a different direction, okay? We have to move in a different direction consciously, so that's collectively, but also individually. Individually, we need to be responsible for our own energy, because we are adding to the collective consciousness. We contribute, okay? Whatever faction it is, we are contributing to it, okay? So we have to take into consideration, do we want our planet to heal and grow and transform? Because I have no interest in going back to the way things were. Now, if they do, I will accept it. But I am in the school of thought that all of this is taking place for a reason. This coronavirus, this global pandemic, this economic collapse. And let's not talk about my home state right now, Georgia. I think it's Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, maybe Texas, Florida, I don't know, but the southern states. Yes, our slow southern cousins. Of course, they're reopening for business as early as this Friday. So here in Georgia, and the handful of states, Tennessee, South Carolina, I believe, Florida, Texas, I'm not sure where else, are reopening small businesses. So barbershops, hairdressers, nail salons. I forgot what the list was. On Friday and Monday, it's some more industries as well as restaurants are allowed to reopen. Now, I think it was just yesterday. It was reported on the news that less than 1% of the population in Georgia has been tested for the coronavirus. Now, don't get me wrong. This is not fear speaking, because I have never been worried about the coronavirus. However, I do respect the experience, okay? It is here for a reason. Like I said, regardless of how it got here, it is allowed to be here, okay? Now, try to comprehend that. It is allowed to be here. So if it is allowed to be here, then it is to be a part of some of our experiences, if not everyone's experience, just to a different degree, okay? And what's interesting is, so you have states like Georgia, they're opening up their businesses. They haven't really tested anyone. And so I understand that people are not accustomed to being at home all the time. And I probably would be a lot more stir crazy, maybe, I don't know, if I lived over in some parts of Asia, because I've lived in South Korea for 2 years. And the apartment, my first apartment, I promise you, it was no bigger than a shoebox. It may have been 400 square feet. And that was everything. So it was an efficiency, as what we used to call it in New England. You know, you got this one big room, and then you got a bathroom and a closet. And that's it. And when I say one big room, remember I said 400 square feet, and there has to be room for a bathroom, and the bathroom is probably maybe 60 or 70 square feet, maybe at the most. It might be closer to 50. Anyway, my point is the apartments are tiny, okay? And if I was trapped in my apartment maybe for a month straight, because this is when I was teaching, so I left every day. I left the house every day. And who stays home on the weekend? But anyway, but the space is so small. I could see how people, you know, feel claustrophobic or restricted. Now, since I've been in the States, well, that's not true, but in the past 4 years, I've been working from home. And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it immensely. But, of course, remember, I'm a Gemini, so I'm flexible. I can make adjustments easily. So, yeah, I've enjoyed it. So this whole being shelter in place is not much of a challenge for me because I enjoy being at home. My home is comfortable. I enjoy it. Now, I understand that there are people who, you know, don't like being at home, or not necessarily don't like being at home, is just not accustomed to being at home all day and being forced. There's a difference. So for some people, it's just the simple fact that they are being forced, you know, as an order, not physically forced, but, you know, that they're being forced to stay at home. Once again, that doesn't bother me either because it just doesn't, you know. I may go out maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks to go grocery shopping. Yeah, it's more like once every 2 weeks because I haven't driven my car at all since, I don't know when. But anyway, so there are people who are extroverts. There are people who are not accustomed to being indoors. There are people who feel trapped. And then there's also the economic factor. You know, people are forced to stay at home. They're not making money. They don't have any reserves, emergency reserves. So they're forced to sit in the house, and all they're probably thinking about, other than the coronavirus, which is all over the TV, is the fact that they don't have any money for their bills. And that, I know that is stressful. I've been in that position. I'm currently in that position. I just feel differently about things. Okay, my energy is in a different place, and it doesn't entertain worrying or fear because I know what those things do to the body. Listen, it's been, you know, said that, well, of course, there's a lot of rumors about coronavirus, and another one is that it feeds off of fear. And, of course, you know, it's like, oh, how does it feed off of fear? Well, you know, your body does chemically change. It is altered when you're in a fearful state. We spoke about this, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes ago. Cortisol is produced in the body when it goes into the fight or flight stage. So, if there is virus and it feeds off of cortisol, then yes, it feeds off of fear, okay, or it feeds on fear. I don't know. These are rumors, okay, but what I'm saying is this virus is forcing the issue, okay? It is forcing the issue. You have the fear of potentially being sick and dying, And don't think about it in a bubble. Think about if you're a single mom and you were a waitress and you have 4 kids. And please, I do not want to hear the asinine comment where you should have had 4 kids or you should have did this. We're not talking about what you should have, would have, and could have done, because we've all been down that road. This is the situation, okay, that someone finds themselves in. How can you not be fearful? How can you not be stressed? I mean, I know how you cannot be, but what I'm saying, it's so easy to understand how one would be stressed or fearful in these circumstances. Okay, you can't work, and unless you're working in a hospital, chances are you don't really see a whole lot of the coronavirus action other than just people walking around with face masks on. So whatever you see on TV, unless you work in a hospital or a prison, somewhere where there is a hot spot or some infestation of the coronavirus, then you're not really connected to it. So that's why you have people out here protesting, okay? Open up our economy, open up our city, don't hold us hostage, free Colorado, free Nevada, oh my gosh, free Pennsylvania. Okay, so now, and I'm not afraid. I'm not a fearmonger of any sort. I'm just saying, if there was supposed to be steps in place, a process in place, a plan in place on how to reopen economically, whatever that plan is, it's not being followed, is all I'm saying. Because at first it was like, well, we need to make sure that X amount of the population is tested. Then it became, because they know they don't have enough tests for that, then it becomes, we got to make sure we test at least for the antibodies before people start returning to work. People haven't even been tested for the virus. You know they're not ready to test you for the antibodies, okay? And you got people squawking about not making money and not receiving money, okay? People, they're not making money, they're not spending money. So the ultimate beneficiary, which are these large corporations, no one is making money, no one is spending money, okay? Which makes sense, you know, because there are fewer people with jobs, less disposable income, and then there are a lot of the services that support is being reduced as well. You know, essential services such as transportation. Now, grocery stores, I think they're just closing during the third shift, maybe between 11 and 7, just long enough to restock, and that may not be everywhere. It's just some of the grocery stores that I had spoke to in my area. So there's been no testing. And because politicians are being pressured by their constituents, and no, that's not a mom and pop voter. We're talking about political action committees, you know, who are ready for people to go back to work, to start earning money so they can start spending money, and everything can go back to hunky-dory. So, the good old southern states. Now, as I was speaking to my co-host earlier, when we were on the political show, Political Star Talk, we were talking about. Sorry, lost my train of thought. We were talking about, oh, shucks. It was the coronavirus. Doggone it. I was going somewhere with that. Anyway, I was speaking to Jenny. Hopefully it'll come back to me. So let's just keep moving forward. But, thank you, universe. So the southern states don't necessarily get it right. Let's see. We have a caller. Let's chime this caller in. Hello. Thank you for calling One for All is Love with Sonya Spirit. And to whom am I speaking with?
Speaking with Carla. I just tuned in, so I'm not sure what this is in regards to.
Okay, Carla. Well, thank you for calling. Well, basically, this this episode is about Earth Day 2020, the coronavirus. Yes. And our current state, our current political state, our current health state, our current economic state. So, you have any thoughts that you want to share or comment, Carla?
No, not really.
No. Okay. Well, how are you managing through the coronavirus? Are you homebound? We just lost Carla. Gosh darn it. Okay, so let's continue. So Carla was just kind of hanging out in cyberspace. So anyway, talking to Jenny about the coronavirus. And, being on, I told her that I don't trust the judgment of most southern states, to be quite honest. I just don't. I don't trust Tennessee. I don't trust Georgia. I don't trust Florida. I don't trust Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, Oklahoma. I just don't trust their judgment. They've been on the wrong side of history before. When South Carolina wanted to cede from the Union. And, of course, that started the Civil War. We know how that ended. And also, that's where all of Jim Crow started. So the South, they don't have the best. They thrive off of fear. And I say thrive, and I know that's not the best choice of words, but, maybe they're comfortable function because, like I said, now the South has some beautiful land, but their people, anyway, it leaves a lot to be desired. But that goes back to the biblical verse: "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And then we just keep on moving. So, do I trust Georgia's judgment in terms of opening up businesses on Friday and Monday? Absolutely not. Am I fearful that there will be another wave of coronavirus? I have no idea. Okay? I don't know. And I would just think that it would be maybe a little wiser to err on the side of caution. Now, I know I'm the first one, a proponent of saying all disease and illness begins in the mind, and it does. But if you're fearful, the last thing you need to be doing is running around inviting the coronavirus. That's just my take. But, of course, I'm not telling anyone what to do. It's your life. It's your health, it's your situation, and I am not judging because I don't know someone's situation. Just like we were talking about the single mother of 4 who's a waitress. I'm sure she can't afford to go another week. Now, luckily, from what I've heard, the stimulus deposits are being made, so that's good. People are receiving money. Hopefully, it will help. Hopefully, people know how to manage their money. If they do, great. If they don't, it'll be a new lesson to learn. All of it is universal lessons. But I'm pretty sure $1,200 is not going to take you very far if you haven't worked since March 19th or, the third week in March. Now, if you're an independent contractor, you may be eligible for unemployment. It depends on the state. I know that if you're a small businesses, I think banks are still a little sketchy or having trouble or not on the same page as far as how to distribute the funds for small businesses, basically because it's a heavily regulated industry and they don't want to get caught not doing something correctly and then being chastised or penalized for it later on financially. But the thing about it is, many of these small businesses, so they're in a particular tight bind, particularly a tight bind. A lot of these small businesses, they got worries twofold. You know, they have the worry of their business, okay, which all of that entails, the overhead, the operations, employees, rent, vendors. So they have that financial obligation and the responsibility of, you know, other people that they've probably already let go because they couldn't afford to keep them on. And then you have, they still have their home component as well. You know, some people, to start businesses, they might take a second mortgage out on their home. And the thing about it is, you know, they're saying, okay, well, we'll tack it on to the back end, or it won't be due for 60 days. Well, during that 60 days, I'm still not generating any money, okay? So in 60 days, I'm still not going to have it. You know what I'm saying? So pushing it off 60 days during the pandemic is not really aiding me. It's only making me more stressed out. I'm not saying me personally. I'm talking about for people in this situation, or people who are entertaining this line of thought. Because remember, you can change your condition, okay, through your thoughts. Now, this is true, but it may not necessarily be easy. And it's not like Bewitched, where you just think something and it happens. The whole purpose of heart-head harmony is to get the duality of your own being in order. Okay, so get yourself, your inner self, in alignment. Be one within first. Okay, so your head and your heart has to be on the same page. Your head is responsible for thoughts, and it emits energy. Your heart is magnetic, and it attracts the resources to manifest the thought into a physical manifestation or physical reality. If they're in agreement. We only manifest when these things are in agreement, good, bad, and indifferent. Okay? If there is no resistance from the subconscious / heart energy, then the physical manifestation will take place. If there is some resistance, a program that disagrees, or just some sort of a resistance, then it will not come to manifestation, or it will be a very slow process. Okay? So the first thing we have to do is get our inner house in order, and our inner house is within ourselves. It is our head and our heart, our thoughts and our feelings, okay? Job number one, that's what affirmations, meditations, prayer, sitting in silence, okay? Listening to Solfeggio frequencies, whatever you do, exercise, oneness with nature, whatever it is that you do that puts you into oneness, that have you vibrating on one frequency within yourself, okay? Get that in order. It can happen instantly, or it can take a whole lifetime. The choice is yours, okay? So if you feel like you can't kick the habit, guess what? You can't. If you feel like you can kick the habit, then you can. Henry Ford said it. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right, because everything stems from the mind. Okay. Once you have your inner harmony, once you have the duality within on the same page, then become one with the universe, become one with nature, be in harmony with the God frequency. Okay? And that is more of what you've been doing. Fill in your mind, your spirit, your body with spiritual food. Okay? Read the books. Fellowship with like-minded people who are interested in enriching spiritually or becoming enlightened. Okay? Fill your environment with these type of people. Now, I'm not saying church people. Okay? Church does not translate into spirituality. Now, I'm not denigrating church people, but I'm saying That's not synonymous. That's not a synonymous term. Spirituality and being religious or churchgoers. Okay? So, but you have to get your house in order. Once you're in the house, then you connect. This is still all internal. So once you get that part together within yourself, the head-heart harmony, then you harmonize your soul with the collective consciousness, with God, with spirit, with the universe, with the bigger picture. And you want to operate in, well, I want to operate. I can't speak for anybody else. I want to operate in harmony because with energy, there is the law of equivalent exchange. And basically, to receive, you have to give. Okay, so remember, we can manifest anything that we want as long as our frequency, as long as we are aligned. Okay, as long as our inner alignment is intact, and then we align. There's no resistance, because to align spiritually means there's no resistance from the subconscious. So we can manifest. That's not a problem. We manifest all the time. The world that we have today is a manifestation of constructs from our mind and emotion and energy from our soul, from our heart, okay, from our spirit. And when those two are in alignment, then manifestation is right around the corner. And then once we get ourselves together, then we open our heart and head to receive universal light, infinite intelligence. We receive knowledge and wisdom. We receive messages and guidance and support. But if you are not open and receptive, you cannot receive. If you do not believe that this is possible, then you will not receive. Unless it's just God's will to be like, hey, this has got to happen. And I know about a little something about that too. I was in a car accident, and I was happy to be alive. And I know it was because of the grace of God. So, all right, we can do anything that we want to, okay? Individually, we are responsible for our own energy. Be still and know that I am God. Have no fear. As I've said many episodes, listen, I don't fear the coronavirus. If that is my experience, then it is my experience and I accept it. If death comes with it, then that is my experience and I accept it. But that's not the only experience that we are going to have from this situation. And I think that this is my feeling. I could be wrong. Maybe 3 or 4 months from now, I'll look back and say, hey, 4 months ago I said this, that, and the third. And it isn't true. But I see a change coming, a shift. And I don't see it going back to the way it was. Like I said, I'm not an advocate of things going back to the way it was or the way things were. Because it wasn't, it's not that it wasn't, it still isn't. It's not equitable. It's not fair. It's not, and all of those are just terms. It's not love. There is no faith. There is no love. And I'm not talking about, if you can't love a complete stranger, then you don't have any love. It's easy to love people you gave birth to. It's easy to love somebody you chose to be in your life. I'm talking about, can you love a perfect stranger? Can you feel that way about someone without even knowing anything about them? That's what I'm talking about. That's the love that I'm talking about. And listen, I'm not judging. I got to work on that myself. talking about it and communicating and thinking about it and entertaining it, I'm allowing that energy into my soul. And this is why contemplation, rumination, meditation, that's why these things are so important. You're not just entertaining ideas, because those ideas have energy, just like words have energy. When we use those words, we are using that energy, or we're emitting that energy. So some words are harsh and have negative energy, and because it has negative connotations with it. We have got to learn to love each other. So, today is the 50th anniversary. There is a lot going on our planet, Mother Earth. Let's respect our mother. There's a lot taking place, energy-wise, visibly as well as invisibly. There's a lot taking place. So there is a lot of friction. You have people who want to continue to shelter in place until they are sure that this virus is passe, even though on TV they tell you that they're expecting another wave in the fall. Okay, I don't want to get into conspiracy, so I'm going to leave that one alone. But it just goes back into the fear. And I'm not saying that these reporters or anchor people are all a part of the conspiracy. They're just doing their jobs. You know, there is other entities pulling the strings. But we are going to have to work together. We keep saying we are in this together. We are in this together because it is a collective consciousness. However, we individually are responsible for what we contribute to that collection. Do we have God as the center of our world, where we think of our experiences in terms of what does this experience mean to me? What am I supposed to learn from it? How do I grow and benefit from this? How do I become a better person? What do I gain that I can share with others? How can I be of service in this particular situation? Being of service may just be staying at home. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not judging, and I don't know the answers. I'm just a little skeptical about running out the door on Friday to get my hair and nails done. So I suggest we exercise common sense. Do what is in the best interest for you, because God has a plan for you. And if part of that plan is not staying at home, then that's where your spirituality comes into play. Follow your spirit guide. Let God lead the way. Trust your guides. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, fellow spirits, thank you so much for tuning in to One for All is Love. Feel free to email me at oneforallislove@gmail.com, ONE, the number 4ALLISLOVE, and you may also support our work by sending a Cash App donation to One4ALLisLove, ONE, the number 4ALLISLOVE. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Do not be afraid. Be spiritually grounded, okay? Be cloaked in your faith, all right? Trust God and allow it to lead the way. Have a great week and stay safe.